Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to This is Some Domain. Um, and I'll be back, after today, I'll be back with this hair. I'm actually going to get a haircut tomorrow. So my evening stream or my nighttime stream, you'll definitely see my haircut and everything. So we'll see that tomorrow. But yeah, so the past 24 hours have been interesting. Um, I have had somebody. I'm starting to understand. I have a person a little bit obsessed with me, and it's getting to the point where I had to block them because they kept doing stuff throughout this time period, and like really, really started making me realize that they're a bit too obsessed with me, and I don't really like that kind of stuff. Especially, I was cool with them. They are a male, but then it turned into something else. And I have to talk about this here because this is part of a sin in the Bible where even men, even and we all know how I feel about that right now. Like I specifically said, if I create a church and they can't get away from those feelings, that they will not be allowed in their church. All right, it doesn't mean my stream hero is gonna be like that, but if I physically have a church, that's when things are gonna be more strict. I'm gonna be a little bit more strict about this. But the past like 24 hours, I've been, well, this started like 2 days ago where something happened, and I was like, hold on a minute, what's going on here? And then it just escalated to something bad, something different than I realized. And I came to realize that they're obsessed with me. And the reason I figured this out is because after I blocked them, they would not stop talking about me in a different Discord. So I went over there. I was like, what is going on with this person? Why they keep doing this? So at like sometime early afternoon, I came to the conclusion that they're obsessing over me, which in the Bible, obsession and stuff like that, it's part of a sin. It's an actual sin. Um and idolizing somebody, that's a sin. So what they're doing is they're sinning whether they realize it or not. And the way to get, I don't know, I can only pray and make sure the person, tries to be aware of this. Um, right now I'm very, very angry and upset with the person, but I'm trying not to say anything to them because it's gotten really bad. I might actually have to disconnect myself from, you know, certain places. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. Um, but I've really, really taken notice to this the moment something there was a so I had a Valentine and they started talking to the Valentine. They persuaded the Valentine to go talk to them instead. So I was like, all right, I see what's going on here. You're not only obsessed with me, you're obsessed with like everything I do at this point, and I don't like that stuff. So I clarified yesterday that I've been clarifying it. I like, you're really, really obsessed with me. You need to stop. All right, this escalation of this, you need to take a step back and rethink what you're doing. If you're obsessed with anything, or if you fall into that category, all right, excuse me, do not do not let yourself get too deep into that because you're gonna start upsetting people like myself over that, and God will harden my heart towards you. I was just being nice to you, okay? I didn't expect you to think anything other than that. But they took it and they made it into something much, much bigger than it is. And they're making it into like a whole level of drama that doesn't need to exist. And you know, between pictures and playing that you're a woman to begin with, that's what started this problem, is them playing as a woman to begin with, and then ended up like, they've just been getting worse and worse and worse as time goes on, and it's like, when does your manipulation stop? Because that's all you've been doing, and you're too afraid to, even when I point it out, they're too afraid to accept it. So this is just something I wanted to say. Do not obsess over people. Do not don't manipulate things to make them go your way, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a point where the manipulation is seen by people, and it won't go your way. In fact, people will get very angry with you and and try to get you to stop just because you think it's funny and all that. After a while, it does really really upset people when people are lying and then cheating to get what they want. You can only do that for so long, and people are going to start picking up that you're doing it. That's why I try to stay realistic as possible. Even if anybody blocks me or bans me somewhere, at least I know I wasn't lying and cheating or manipulating a situation to get there. Then the people that actually are, willing to see what's actually going on and look at it from a standpoint, start to realize that, hey, he might actually, that the person in a bad position may actually be right. It takes time, though. It takes time for it to learn, and it does really, really put a damper on things sometimes. So this is just something to think about when you're doing stuff like that. Especially you that want things to go your way, but you can't always get them to go your way. You know, there's too many people have, like, for me, I noticed that there's a thing where people have this like massive obsession for me, and it won't let me like do anything besides pay attention to them. It's like there's a couple people I know that were like that, and I'm like, can you stop this? Can you stop this madness? Anyway, let's get into reading the Bible. Yeah, and the worst thing is about that situation is I wasn't actually leading anybody on. That's the thing, is like, regardless of how they felt, I wasn't leading them on. You pretty much betrayed a woman to begin with, so you were in the wrong to start. So, exploring Canaan. Chapter 13. The Lord said to Moses, "Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites from each ancestral tribe. Send one of its leaders." So, at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. These are the names. All right, so we're getting ready to do some names here. You all know how I feel about this. This is a rough part, but it's not very, very long. But it's still, yeah. All right. From the tribe of Reuben, Shemuel, son of Zerach. From the tribe of Simon, Shephath, son of Horai. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar, Igal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hosha, son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Raphael. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gedel, son of Sodai. From the tribe of Manasseh, a tribe of Joseph, Gadi, son of Susai. From the tribe of Dan, Amel, son of Gamal. From the tribe of Asher, Sethor, son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabai, son of Boshai. From the tribe of Gad, Goel, son of Micah. These are the names of the men Moses sent out to explore the land. Moses gave Hoshai, son of Nun, the name Joshua. When Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, "Go up through Negev and on into the hill country. See what the land is and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, many or few. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? What kind of land of towns do they live in? Are they willing to be fortified? Are they willing or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? Do your best to bring some of the fruit of the land. It it was the season for the first grapevines. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rohab toward Lebo Hamath. They went up through Negev and came to Hebron from Amen, Sisha, and Talam. The descendants of Anak lived Hebron and built 7 years before Zion in Egypt. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with the pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the clusters of grapes the Israelites cut off there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. So Moses told them, go and explore this land because it's unknown to us what's there, who's there, what kind of people are there, and stuff like that. So that's why they sent these people out to explore the land. God created the earth, but God is also like, you know, he he knows what's going on. He knows what you're thinking, but at the same time, Moses and the people here, they didn't really know anything about that. So God made a suggestion to it, and so they're gonna go explore this land, and so that way, they can mark it down and get to know the people there and see what they're about. So just remember the world back then. If you look at a world map at this time frame, okay, so the portion of land was all just one big mass. It didn't split apart for a long, long time. So when you look at a map from the earlier days of the world, all right, you look at it and you can see that the 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 whole portion of land was literally connected together, and it was connected together, and it wasn't apart. It didn't drift. The continental drifts, I don't know when those took place, but they're we see them now. We see that we're all like separated from each other, and it's just wild to think about how like things have changed over the course of time. Um, it's just look at a map and you can see it. You can see how everything was connected at one point, and over the course of time, it all separated. It always makes me wonder though how they decided to draw a map out because you didn't have anything actually up in the sky to look down saying this is what the map of the world looks like. So it's really cool to think about that. We kind of knew that back then, and now we use technology to do that. Okay, so my thing I gotta bring up here is like, were we much more intelligent back long ago than we are now? Because when you sit there and think about it, we don't have much to do anymore. We use a lot of technology. But back in the day, they didn't use technology to do things. They used like actual if you were to measure something, you actually took a tape measure. Now there's technology where you take your phone and measure things with it. It's just wild to think about how like over the course of time and history things have changed like that. And it was more work back then than it is now to, even remotely um it was more work back then to do things than it is now. And that's what's kind of frightening about it. Like, and also, were we smarter back then, or were we less intelligent back then? I believe we were much more smarter back then. Because we were on the verge of creating things, like take the wheel for example. There's a story about how the wheel was created, and the person who thought about that must have really, really been a high level of intelligence. Now we don't even have that anymore, where people are like developing things, and well, we do, but it's like differently now because it's already like something that's already developed. So, all right. Report on exploration. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. They reported to them and the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land they gave Moses. This account: we went into the land to watch to which you sent us, and does flow like milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites lived in Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites lived in the hill country of the Canaanites, and lived in the hill country, and the Canaanites lived near the sea and along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, "We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it." But the men who had gone up with them said, "We can't attack these people. Those people, they are stronger than we are, and they are spread among the Israelites." A bad report about the people, a bad report about the land had been explored. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are a great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same size to them." So we're on chapter 14. So they saw these people. They went there and they saw these people that were just like super like big to them. I don't know what they mean by like we were like a grasshopper to them. It seems like they saw some really big people. And in Nephilim, apparently they were bigger people than average people. So that's why they like said that way. Um, but it makes me wonder, like, you know, they talk about them being descendants and stuff like that. So it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder where they even remotely existed in history. There's stuff like that like make me wonder. That's why, like I say, they should have made like somebody should have made side stories to the Bible. I mean, there are side stories out there, but there should be like a whole list of things that happened outside of the Bible that were Bible related back. Just some stuff like that. I thought that would have been cool, but all right. So we're on to chapter 14. The 3 chapters are actually shorter than I thought. The people rebel. Chapter 14. That night, all the members of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, "If only we died in Egypt or in the wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plundered. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?" And they said to each other, "We should choose a leader to go back to Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them." But the whole assembly talked about stoning them. Then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent to the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me, in spite of all the signs I have performed among them? I will strike them down with the plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they." So, the Lord came down, and he they just are having trouble believing in the Lord, and that's why, like, the Lord's coming down, he's making appearances, and he's just tired of this nonsense that they're throwing at him. He's getting really tired. The Lord is getting frustrated with those people, and he's giving them a lot of patience and a lot of reasons to believe and understand what the Lord has to say, and people keep denying it. People keep forgetting and denying it. So they end up like they end up just doing stuff um that isn't what the Lord wants, and they're trying to make these plans and stuff like that. I don't know. It just seems like people forget too quickly. The heck was that? That person. Wait. All right. So, all right. Moses said to the Lord, "Then the Egyptian will hear about it by your power, by power brought to you, by power, by your power you brought these people up from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land about it. They have already heard that you, Lord, are with these people, and that you, Lord, have been seen face to face, that your cloud stays over, and that you go before them and a pillar of cloud by day, and a pillar of fire by night. If you put all these people to death, leaving none alone, the nations who have heard this report about you will say, 'The Lord was not able to bring these people into the land he promised them on oath, so he slaughtered them in the wilderness.' Now, may the Lord's strength be displayed just as you have declared. The Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation. In accordance with your great love, forgive the sins of these people, just as you have pardoned them from the time they left Egypt until now." The Lord replied, "I have forgiven them, as you asked. Nevertheless, as surely as as surely as I live, as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of those who was my glory and the sign I performed in Egypt in the wilderness, but who disobey me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their ancestors. No one has treated me with contempt. No one who has treated me with contempt uh, will ever see it. Because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land we want to, and his descendants will inherit, since the Amalekites and the Canaanites are living in the valleys. Turn back tomorrow and set out towards the desert along the route of the Red Sea. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, how long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites. So tell them, as surely as I live, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I have heard you say. In the wilderness, your body will fall, every one of you 20 years old or more, who was counted in the census, who has grumbled against me, not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplift hand to make your home, except Caleb son of Jephunneh. I can't pronounce that name. And Joshua son of Nun, as your children that you said would be taken as a plunder. I will bring them in to enjoy the land you have rejected, but as far as your body will fall in the wilderness, your children will be shepherds for 40 years, suffering for your unfaithfulness, until the last of your bodies lies in the wilderness for 40 years. 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land. You will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do things to this whole wicked community which has band together against me. They will meet their end in the wilderness. Here they will die. So the Lord's just outright, he is tired right now. He's stating that he's tired, and that's why he's saying, I'm going to do all this to your families if you don't stop, because you've acted like this for so long against me, and that's the thing is all right, so again, this goes back to that thing where I talked about yesterday, people complaining to get their way, and then they get their way, and then they get their way too much, and then God's just okay, I'm sick of this now. I'm sick of you guys complaining. You guys need to grow up, and you guys need to work on, being respectful, and stuff like that to the Lord. Unfortunately, in today's age, there's too many people not respecting, even what the Lord wants. I know so many people. Well, not so many people, but I know that there's people in the world that are like this, that don't listen to anything. So when they don't listen to anything and they grumble and they get mad and they go after your livelihood and stuff like that, you have to put them in check. Unfortunately, like I said, I had to put somebody in check. But at the end of the day, all this complaining and crying you do is, it just gets out of hand. Anybody that does it, you're not entitled to the thing you're crying about. You never are. You never have been. So when you cry about something you actually want, is it really because you want it? Or are you just crying just to cry because you want people to pay attention to you? There's a bad habit of that in today's age. And for people to always get what they want, it's not always a good thing to get what you want, because it doesn't teach you a lesson. That's why we have problems with so many things right now, because people are always getting what they want, but they're doing it out of viciousness. They're not actually doing it where they're not doing it with good intentions either. They're getting what they want, and it's just it's going so badly right now that you see it coming from all spectrums, and when people don't get what they want, they act like children. That's the one of the biggest things I see quite frequently is when people don't get what they want, so they act like children, and they go and they bully somebody over it, or they go out and damage an item of a person's because they found it disrespectful that they got what they want, that the person worked and got for what they wanted. Like me. Every time I build a friendship with somebody, every time I meet a girl and I start talking to her, there's some guy out there that throws a temper tantrum over that. And they do it with the content of like thinking they're going to be in the right for it. It makes me wonder how much on their end they suffer after that. And if they don't see the suffering, when are they going to start seeing the suffering? Because if you continue to act like that, and you continue to act like things are supposed to go your way, you're supposed to get what you want, that's not how life works, buddy. You're supposed to learn from that. But unfortunately, we see a lot of people that don't ever learn from that. So like in the long run, I put up with it to an extent, but it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, I've taught you enough. It's time for me to stop. It's time for me to stop being nice to you, and time for me to start doing stuff that's gonna be, time for me to start, looking at how you handle stuff. And if you're being downright nasty with somebody and you keep trying to make them look like a bad character, people are gonna start seeing that about you. You have to remember, after a point in time, people are gonna start seeing you as a jerk because you're literally like making a person look like a bad character. And there are people that do that with me, and I see people coming around, but it's like they still stay off in a distance because people have made me look like a character that they see that there's a vendetta behind it. They see that there's vengeance behind it. They see stuff like that. And believe it or not, if you do act like that, if you do act out in vengeance and try to make somebody look bad consistently without giving them an absolute chance, without like being compassionate and forgetting what they did, it then becomes a problem because it really gives the person, it really causes more problems than it should. Just remember, just because somebody's saying something bad about somebody and trying to get control over every single situation, you'll pick up on who it is normally. And if you can't depict it, then hey, you're the one that's going to get trapped by this nonsense. And to sit there and always think somebody's a bad guy because you believed in somebody, there's a form of manipulation where people do make people into their friends, and it's called a silver tongue. And they lie a lot, and they'll do things that like to lie. They'll make up the situations, and they'll there's cry bullying in form of it too. It's a lot of tactics they use, and it's pretty sad that they narrow it down to that level where they have to resort to being a really, really, horrible human being without actually realizing they're being a bad human being. And that's unfortunate because that's just the way they are, and that's the way they're always going to be. They're never going to change from that, and they'll be stuck that way for like ever. And the only thing I can do is pray for them and pray that they learn from their mistakes. And the only way for them to learn is to understand, when it comes down to it, if people aren't fond of you, then at some point you need to start understanding that start understanding where you're going wrong, because continuously trying to make somebody look bad is not good on you, and you'll look bad eventually. So all right, so the men Moses had sent to explore the land would return, and made the whole community grumble against him, and by spreading a bad report about these men who were responsible for spreading the bad report about the land. We struck down and died of a plague before the land. Of the men who went to explore the land, only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, survived. When Moses reported these to all the Israelites, they mourned bitterly. Early the next morning, they set out for the highest point in the hill country, saying, "Now we are ready to go up to the land up to the land the Lord promised. Surely we have sinned. But Moses said, why are we disobeying the Lord's command? This will not succeed. Do not go up, because the Lord is not with you. You will be defeated by your enemies, for the Amalekites and Canaanites will face you there, because you have turned away from the Lord. We will not be with you, and you will fall by the sword. Nevertheless, in the presumption, they went up towards the highest point in the hill country, though neither Moses nor the ark of the Lord's covenant moved from the camp. Then the Amalekites and Canaanites who lived in the hill country came down, attacked them, and beat them down all the way of Hormah. So yeah, they went up in there without the Lord, and they got defeated. The Lord basically openly Moses is trying to help these guys understand, but again, they're disobeying the Lord's command, and that's just how it always goes. People, like, I could talk about people not giving the Lord's people not paying attention to the Lord and stuff like that. But hey, that's on them. Alright. Supplementary offerings, chapter 15. The Lord said, speak to the Israelites and say to them, after you enter the land I am giving you as a home, and you present to the Lord food offerings from the herd or flock as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, whether burnt offering or sacrifices for special vows or a free will offering or festival offerings. Then the person who brings an offering shall present to the Lord a grain offering, a tenth of an ephah of its finest flour, with a quartering of hin of olive oil, with each lamb for burnt offering or sacrifice. Prepare a quarter of a hin of wine as a drink offering. With a ram prepare grain offering of 2/10 of ephah of the finest flour, mixed with a third of hin of olive oil, and a third of a hin of wine as a drink offering. Offer it as aroma pleasing to the Lord. When you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering or sacrifice for a special vow or fellowship offering to the Lord, bring with the bull a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour, mixed with half of hin of olive oil, and also bring a half hin of wine as drink offering. This will be an offering of an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Each bull or ram, each lamb or young goat is to be prepared in this manner. Do this for each one, as many as you prepare. Everyone who is native born must do things in this way when they present a food offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. For generations to come, whenever a foreigner or anyone else living among you presents a food offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, they must do exactly as you do. The community is to have the same rules for you and for the foreigner residing among you. This is a lasting ordinance for a generation to come. And for the foreigner shall be the same before the Lord. The same laws and regulations will apply both to you and the foreigner residing among you. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land of which I am taking you, and you eat the food of the land, present a portion as an offering to the Lord. Present a loaf from the first ground meal, and present it as an offering from the threshing floor. Throughout the generations to come, you are to give the offering to the Lord from the first of your ground meal. Offering unintentional sins. Now, if you as a community unintentionally fail to keep any of these commands the Lord gave Moses, any of the Lord's commands to you through him from the day the Lord gave them and continued through the generations to come. And if this is done unintentionally without the community being aware of it, then the whole community is to offer a young bull for a burnt offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, along with its prescribed grain offering and drink offering, and a male goat for sin offering. The priest is to make an atonement for the whole Israelite community, and they will be forgiven for its not unintentional, and they have presented to the Lord for their wrong a food offering and a sin offering. The whole Israelite community and the foreigner residing among them will be forgiven because all the people were involved in the unintentional wrong. But if just one person sins unintentionally, that person must bring a year-old female goat for a sin offering. The priest is to make an atonement before the Lord for the one who erred by sinning unintentionally, and when the atonement has been made, that person will be forgiven. One and the same law applies to everyone who sins unintentionally, whether a native-born or Israelite or a foreigner resides among you. But anyone who sins definitely, whether native-born or foreigner, blasphemies the Lord and must be cut off from their people of Israel, because they have despised the Lord's word and broken his commands. They must surely be cut off from their guilt, ruins on them. The Sabbath breaker put to death. While the Israelites were in the wilderness, a man was found gathering wood on a Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moses and Aaron and the whole assembly, and they kept him in custody because it was not clear what should be done to him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "The man must die. The whole assembly must stone him outside the camp." So the assembly took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord commanded Moses. Oh, the Israelites don't know. So he just punished somebody on a Sabbath day, for collecting wood. So, because the rule goes on Sunday, the one day of the week, the Sabbath day, you're not supposed to be working, and that's what he was doing. So that's why they stoned him to death. Tassel on garments. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them throughout the generations to come, you are to make tassels on the corner of your garment with a blue cord on each tassel. You will have these tassels to look at, and so you will remember all the commands of the Lord, that you may obey them, and do not prostitute yourself by chasing after the lust of your own hearts and eyes. Then you will remember to obey all my commands, and we will be consecrated to your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God." So we're on to chapter 16 now. So as you can see, the Lord's trying to deal with these people, and they're just being downright difficult. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So, yeah, we're getting closer and closer to finishing numbers. But yeah, it's just the Lord's just working with these people, and He's like, hey, you guys need to chill. You guys need to start following my commands, because if you don't, I'm gonna keep doing this to you. I'm gonna keep reminding you that you were in the wrong, and that you know, just keep trying to follow my commands. That's all I ask. The Lord the Lord is trying to teach these people, and they just do not want to understand. They're being difficult as heck, and that's the way they are. Like people won't follow a command until they actually see the issue behind it. If the Lord's commanding you to do something and you don't pay attention to it, you'll get in today's age, if it's a lot different. Where if you don't follow the command that the Lord gives you, it's He shows you. He'll literally show you. And if you don't see it, a lot of people think they're living their lives perfectly fine, and the ones that don't believe in our God they're pretty much the people that they basically are ruining stuff for themselves, whether they realize it or not. And so again, going back to something I said earlier about the about how people will see you following God, and see you getting your blessing, you know, and then they always think you're doing something weird. Like for me, I've had moments where I saved up enough money for this Nintendo Switch OLED. Okay, I got this thing. You know what happened when I brought this thing? I had a whole group of people. I had a whole big group of people literally sit there and think I stole that thing from a store. So what happened is that very night, as I was leaving my job, people knew I got a Nintendo Switch OLED. So cops pulled me over. And I just had a feeling that that was going to happen, because that's how people are. They see you get something nice, they're like, oh, he stole that. No, no. There's a thing called saving up money from all the work you do to get stuff like that. It's a form of a blessing, that God, it's a form of a blessing that God does for you. But these people that surround me, they don't think like that. They have no understanding, no recollection, no correlation to understanding stuff like that. So when I buy myself something really, really nice, like my next item I'm gonna be buying would be, I'm gonna probably upgrade my laptop from a Chromebook to an actual, Windows laptop, because that's that little treat I want to get for all the work I done for the year for my taxes and all that. But the problem is like when you buy stuff like that, you save up your money, and when you save up your money and you get that nice item, there's people legitimately that think you stole. I don't understand how Gen Z is so bad at, sometimes, no offense to Gen Z, but you all have proven that you don't think critically. You don't do some critical thinking before you do stuff. You just assume, and then that assumption is ran through with everybody, and then everybody just assumes the same thing. And it's pretty sad when it comes down to it, because it leads to you trying to make somebody look like a bad person, when reality, the truth is, after you didn't do it the first time, this is what happens with them. Okay, after they didn't do it the first time, they'll do it again. They'll do it again. They'll do it again, and then they will not get the person won't get in trouble, but they'll still keep doing it. And that's the part that they need to start letting sink in. There is some times where people are doing good things, and you're just assuming it to be bad. That's why I have a problem with some people on the internet. I try to avoid causing conflict with people, but there's people out there that'll believe whatever they want to believe. And that's part of where the drama starts kicking in at, because they'll see you do something very, very small and end up running with that thought. they'll run and run and run with that thought and have no correlation back to why they even thought that, you know? And apparently I'm just I'm just like I was, apparently me buying one of these was an example of me also going to the store, going to Walmart, busting in a window and getting one of these, even though that's not actually what happened. So just think before you do stuff. Sometimes to do things, you have to really, really, even a criminal, you have to, with the criminal and you want to steal something, you have to have a mindset that's, you know, like, you have to have a mindset of how you're going to get that item first. And my mind don't have the capacity to think like that. In fact, when it comes to being a criminal, I feel some sort of way, you know? Like, like example, if I literally was to go and, out and, that's why. What's my thoughts on charge or change? Do I think evil people will ever change? That's a rough one. It depends. Um, I do believe people change, and like I said, there's a lot of changes that happen to me through this Bible, but for people to change, they have to want to pick this book up and want to go to Christ and change and everything like that. And you could be intentionally saying somebody's evil or bad, and they're not actually an evil or bad person. Maybe they're just dealing with stuff in their life, and you look at it that way, and that's where you need to start understanding that, did you take the time out to understand and know where that person's coming from? Because you could look at that person like they're evil all day long, and sometimes they might not be in the wrong for what they did or how they acted. Now in society, you do one small thing. You stand up against a bully or something like that. You're perceived as an evil person because you did an evil action to the bully, even though you were the one being bullied all along. Like, for me, example, I've been bullied so many times in my life that, like, now it's at the point where, like, even, you know, I've been through so many situations where the bully had bullied me far too much, and I look like a bad guy because I got bullied and I let people step all over me. So when I stand up against people that are bullying me or something like that, I look like the bad guy in some certain situations, and that's like what is awful about that, because people don't, you know, people don't want to see things like that. I'm in a situation right now where somebody is just so obsessed with trying to make me look bad. Hence why I talked about that earlier on. And will never and don't seem to ever learn that they are in the wrong for that. And they don't seem to want to understand that think people do change. So for them to go out of their way and show every picture of me, maybe you're getting people wound up, and maybe you're being the bully at this point, trying to bring the person back to their ways because you want to look like the good guy again. It's called white knighting. It's really, really bad, actually. To to sink to that level of trying to make somebody look bad so consistently due to messed up things you say to them. And that's why I have that person blocked right now, because they're not learning to stop. They're not learning to change on top of how they've treated me in the past. I don't know why I need to justify why I'm any different at this point when the bullying comes from the outlet of the person I blocked. So, at the end of the day, if you're not willing to accept that you're the problem and it comes down to me blocking you to have to show you that I left you alone, but you're claiming I still come after you, and you're looking around and you're seeing nobody else is having a problem with me, then what do we have? We have you in a position where you didn't want to be. So, and as far as believing people are evil, yeah, well then you gotta just pull yourself out of it, Mystic Flower. You can't sit there and let that happen. I know you grew up in it, and I grew up in it also, but you can walk away from it. You don't have to keep connections. You don't have to keep connection with your family. You can disconnect yourself with your family. They're always going to be like that. If they chose not to change, Mystic Flower, it's just best for you to walk away from that situation and cut your family off completely. You know, It's going to be hard and it's going to be rough, and your family's going to talk a whole bunch of horrible things about you. But what you're going to understand is that, like, the people that are doing that to you, well, there's going to be people in your life you're going to come across at some point. This is why you keep God with you and keep praising God. But when you cut people off that are not good for you, you start to get an understanding, or no, you start to run into people that know you're not a bad person. You as a woman, Mystic Flower, it's easier for you to make friends than a guy like me to make friends. And the reason yours is different is because you're a girl, okay? People are more fond of being okay with girls having issues like that as opposed to guys. That's the way the society is. And because I'm a big guy who looks like I might, like, you think so? Cuz I could beg to differ. I've seen people walk away from things, and you know, it just depends on you as a person, because I really think that you as a female have it easier than what a guy does, but that could be some where I'm going wrong too. For all I know, I don't know who you are, but you seem like you're in a very similar situation and I was in, and I had to cut my family off, and my family just kept talking and talking about me, and they still talk about me. A lot of people talk about me, but it's because I ended up being an outcast over time because I chose to do that, to walk away from hard parts of my life. So Mystic Flower, the only thing I can suggest for you is, like, pray to God, read the Bible, and try to do something that's going to make the best of everything for you right now, because you never know. You know, Joseph's story, if you go back to Joseph's story, that was all punishment, because it was pretty much like what you're dealing with. Like, I can relate to Joseph too, but your story is very similar to mine, where you grow up around abuse, and that was kind of where I grew up around. And I don't hold on to it anymore. I move forward, but there are moments where they try to seek me out and they try to remind me of where I came from, and it's like I don't want to be reminded of how I came from this, like, really really horrible background. But you know I wanted some change, and I seeked change, and it took a while for me to it took a while for it. Ah, thank you, thank you, Donna. It's highly appreciated. Anybody stopping in here, you're all appreciated here, and I do respect the fact that you all came in here. Um, we all kind of need each other as a community. So anybody that's in this community that has, like, you know, had struggles in their life or ended up here, and you just feel alone, trust me, I'm right there with you, and that's why I've been seeking God. And this community, when it grows even more, and I actually start, like, going out in the public and stuff, I want to meet some of you guys. So, and I want to try to sit down and have discussions with some of the people some of the people in this community, so that way I can help you understand that I came from a long line of problems too, and I walked away from a lot of them, and I still deal with people bad mouthing me and talking poorly about me, but I don't let it get my spirit down. As you can see, as you've been listening, I had something I dealt with yesterday with a person that was just not, like, letting up on something, so I had to put them on block. Unfortunately, that's just how things go. Sometimes you gotta cut the people off that is giving you the hard time, and just sometimes just letting things ride out, because you don't know, maybe cutting these people off, or cutting them off, or walking away from them might be for the best. It might lead you to a better life. I mean, heck, I'm doing YouTube right now, and I have a whole group of people that recognize me now. At least I have that. That's something special to me. That was the whole blessing. And I can only go up from here and keep promoting God's word. But at the end of the day, there's people that don't like what I'm doing, and that's always gonna be the way they do things. Is like, because they feel entitled to it. It doesn't mean they are. It doesn't mean they have to have it. It doesn't mean they have to be involved in everything. You can feel entitled about things all you want, but you have to understand there's some sort of acceptance and involvement in the group. And if I'm around you, because I do follow what God tells me. If I'm around you and I feel kind of strange, and I start seeing you, do things like obsess over me, then I have to do something about that. Unfortunately, you kind of like didn't allow yourself to, you know, you didn't allow yourself not to fall into, well, you did you how do I want to say this? You did not stop yourself from falling into that. You fell into that, and I look at it this way. If I don't want dudes obsessing over me, but of course, I don't really, I don't mind women obsessing over me. It's just that's not what I came here for. I came here to promote God's word and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different when I look at it from my standpoint. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you like my work, I will eventually get to the point where I'll do outings and stuff like that. I'll go out in person, speak in person, and be right in front of you on a stage or whatever at some point down the road, but not right now. And I will say this, whatever you're dealing with right now at this very point in time, stick that out, hang in there, you'll get through that. Keep praising God. In fact, Mystic, I'll say a prayer for you today. So I'll say a prayer for you today so you can get through your hard time. But this is where I gotta wrap it up because we're at my mark. So we're past my mark. So all right, let's pray so we can all go about our days and go and have the Lord be with you. So all right, Jesus, Lord Jesus Christ, I'm praying to you today that you help Mystic Flower out with their situation. Um, I know what it's like to grow up around toxic people, and I know it's very, very hard for them to get through life. So, Lord, if you could help them understand that where they're at now isn't going to be the last of where they're at, and Lord, let them know that it's okay for them to cut the people off that are being abusive towards them, and Lord, send them on a path that is going to be greater than where they are now, Lord. If you need them to do a YouTube channel like me or like stuff like that, let them know, show them the direction, give them the feeling, uh, help them explore, what they need to be doing. They have a bigger purpose than where they are right now, and you know that, Lord. So if you could help Mystic Flower go in a direction they need to go in and just find peace in their own life and find that those people that in those people those people that will accept them into their life and not be so hypocritical. Lord, send them that way. you know send Mystic Flower the blessings they need, and send them strength, and anybody doing anything wrongdoing to them, Lord, turn those all into blessings and prevent those from doing it, Lord. Show Mystic Flower that they really, really need to, that you're there and you will keep them safe. Also, Lord, I pray that you send me another blessing today. I pray that anybody that is obsessed over me, I pray that you teach them to not be obsessed over me, for it will lead them to, you know, it will lead them to a bad spot. And Lord, I'm kind of glad you put me in a spot yesterday where my heart got hardened and I had to block them because, Lord, they were having ultimate problems understanding anything. And Lord, I am, just give them direction, pull them away from, you know, their obsession with me. I don't know why they keep obsessing over with me, Lord, but if they are obsessing, make them understand, or if you need to punish them for obsessing over me, Lord, have them understand that they need to stop that. Lord, a man obsessing over a man is not something I agree with, not something you like. So, Lord, if you could show the person that that's bad and that they shouldn't be doing that, and Lord, make sure anybody that's obsessing over anybody, make sure you you show them it's wrong. And Lord, um, also, put a big barrier protection around me and anybody else like Mystic Flower here. Make sure we're all being protected by you, Lord, and make sure we're able to go through our day without people giving us a hard time. Also, Lord, I pray for Melanie Mack. Bless her today, and I pray for Brittany Venti. Her birthday was last night. Bless her, Lord, and in Jesus' name, amen. So there you go. there you have it. No problem, Mystic Flower. Actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, which I don't know if you follow me on here, I'll show you that real quick. So if if you have a chance, come over here to my YouTube, follow it, and if you have like I put so much stuff up here that like sometimes I put community stuff up and all that. So if you can, go and subscribe here. And if you have a problem with something or you need to talk, reach out to me in the comment sections and I'll find a way to talk with you if you can. I'll try my best to help you through everything. I'm not the most perfect person for the job, but I do have experience in trying to help people get through a hard time. So if you want to, just go subscribe there. And with that said, everybody, I gotta get out of here. I'm running behind on time. So everybody have a blessed day and take it easy and God bless you. And I'll be uploading a short here soon to the channel. So